Now, our call of the wild. Now, most of us have heard of the book, The Call of the Wild, published in 1903 by Jack London. And it's a story about a large domestic dog named Buck that was stolen from his carrying home in California and sold into dog sled slavery during the Alaskan Gold Rush. And he went from a posh home life with a loving master to being beaten with sticks by inhumane megalomaniacs searching endlessly for gold in the frozen north of Alaska. Buck was forced to hunt for his own food if he wanted to avoid starvation. And as Buck acclimatizes and tunes his senses to the wilderness, he begins to notice for the first time mysterious calls from the wild. Calls which awaken instincts deeply embedded within him. Eventually, he fully returns to his true and wild nature. He fully answers the call of the wild. Are we humans that much different? Are we who call ourselves Christians that much different? Do we hear our personal call? Better yet, have we answered that call? Or are we just doing what others say we're supposed to be doing? Now, I know that all of you, deep down in your hearts, have at some point in your life heard or felt or caught a fleeting glance or glimpse of your call, your gift, your true identity. Everyone on earth has. So have you. Answering that wild call will take you home. Romans 2:14 and 15 from the Message. When outsiders who have never heard of God's law follow it more or less by instinct, they confirm its truth by their obedience. They show that God's law is not something alien, imposed on us from without, but woven into the very fabric of our creation. There's something deep within them that echoes God's yes and no, right and wrong. While having lunch with that young attorney at that busy hipster downtown lunch joint, he asked me why I'd moved 27 times during my 38 years of marriage. He thought it was quite excessive. And I told him that the reason for our many moves was that I volunteered with particular ministries to go wherever, whenever. It was my choice. And I told him that sometimes I was paid by the group, but usually I wasn't. And I'd learned how to quickly start a small business or to get a job rapidly. My mind picture was always of my wife holding some child, some baby on her hips, screaming hungrily. And that always did the trick for me. Because if you don't bring home the bacon, ain't nobody else going to do it. And so living like a spiritual nomad had been a blast for 30 years. And during our travels, I've met many of you beautiful people because of my, as that bearded lawyer stated, because of my excessive travels. And I've been handsomely enriched by your lives and blessed immeasurably by your gifts. And he asked me why I finally stopped moving. And I said, I haven't stopped moving. I just stopped moving around. There's a difference. I still hear and answer my call of the wild on a weekly basis. I still hear my call of the wild. I still feel the noticeable internal tug to teach truth. And I feel a pulling, an obligation to encourage others, try to encourage everybody that I meet in some way. Try to leave people a little better than I found them the last time. I finally realized that I no longer needed to move around at someone else's impulse, living their itinerant dreams for my life. I now say to people like that, Answer your own call. Don't tell me to move where you want me to move. You move there. I'm going to go where God wants me to go. I'm sharp enough now to do that. I don't need that anymore. Maybe I did for 30 years. Maybe I didn't. Quote, it's been my observation that the happiest of people, the vibrant doers of the world, are almost always those who are using, who are putting into play, calling upon, depending upon the greatest number of their God-given talents and capabilities. John Glenn, spaceman extraordinaire. You know, those are the happiest people. That's the only way we'll be happy. That's the only way we get lost in the moment. That's the only way we'll feel like we had a successful life, is to utilize the gift of who we are. You know, like Buck answering his call of the wild, your call will fit you exactly. It's going to shape you into the you that you were meant to be. Answering your call is as much is as possible as anything that you deeply crave. You know, why not? You know, that answering your call can also save your life at times. Because sometimes a call isn't just the direction you're supposed to go with your whole life. It's just something you're supposed to do right then. Remember the Bible says a fitly spoken word is like apples of gold and pitchers of silver. It's perfect. Or it's like beautifully silver and gold inlaid jewelry, some translations say. It's beautiful. The right thing at the right time. Wow. 1 Timothy 6:6 from the ISV says, of course, godliness with contentment does bring a great profit. Godliness with contentment brings great gain, a great profit. The word godliness in the Greek means the direct opposite of being religious. Godliness is the direct opposite of being religious. Godliness gives you access to the gains that you've been seeking. It gives you access to that great profit. Excuse me. Religion is nothing more than the outward ceremonies which can be performed by the physical side of you without the help of God. Religion is a deception that tricks us into thinking that we're busy serving God and living out our life calling. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between godliness and religion. It's a blurred line sometimes. Religion will look so normal, so socially acceptable, that we feel like an outsider if we don't conform. Religion always wants you to conform. That should be your first note to self. Romans 12:2 from the Message. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings out the best in you, develops well-formed maturity in you. I love that. That it doesn't drag us down. Godliness won't drag us down. It'll help bring out that well-formed maturity in us. That's answering your call of the wild. Instinctually, there's something in you that you know is true, that you know you're supposed to do, that you know you can do, but how to do it. How to do it. Religion is action without thinking. It's just going through the motions. We've all seen people. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Maybe they need to at that time in their life just to do something to keep their heads together, keep themselves from freaking out. I don't know. I'm just saying that and godliness are on two different sides of the spectrum. Godliness is true contentment. It's true contentment. How many of you want to be content with your life? You know, how many times have I asked people in groups, Christian or not Christian, how many of you believe that you're on earth for a reason? And everybody raises their hand. Christian, non-Christian, it doesn't matter, everybody does. Then if I had the follow-up question, how many of you know what your purpose is? Usually 3 hands go up. Even Christians. Everybody knows they're called to do something for God, for humanity, for the universe, you know, for something. Aliens, you know, whatever you're into, you know, but hardly anybody knows what it is. It seems like that's craziness. If God can create a universe, can't he find a way to talk to you, to communicate with you? I should say so. Doesn't make you crazy either. Develops well-formed maturity in you. Religion is Buck's thick leather leash, the harness that trapped him to that sled where he's beaten into submission and made to work ungodly hours. Those of you who've read that old book. See, religion makes my skin crawl. It's like seeing an 85-year-old woman wearing fishnet stockings, or a baby with lipstick, or a cat in a Halloween outfit. It just don't fit. It makes my eyes burn. Oh, my word. See, godliness is, as Bullinger so aptly stated, a real, true, vital, and spiritual relationship with God. It's in his interlinear. That's a lot of descriptors, folks. That's what he said the word godliness means. It means a real, true, vital, spiritual relationship with God. How would you like to have that kind of relationship with the creator of the universe? Imagine having that relationship with the richest man on earth or woman on earth. Might help you. A real, true, vital, spiritual relationship. Wow! Isn't that what we're all looking for? Isn't that what the world's craving? Isn't that what the world needs? Along with love, sweet love. What the world needs now. Love, sweet love. See, everyone on earth wanted that relationship at some point in their life. Everybody. Did you know that? Every single human was born with that. They craved that real, true, vital, spiritual relationship with God, with the Creator. Everybody had access to it at one point in their life. Every human. What happened? What happened? You know, everyone wants that in their life. And that's the inner voice, our call to the wild that we once heard and that we want to hear again and again and again. Ephesians 6, 11 through 18 from the Phillips. In conclusion, be strong, not in yourselves, but in the Lord, in the power of His boundless resource. Put on God's complete armor so that you can successfully resist all the devil's methods of attack. For our fight is not against any physical enemy, it's against organizations and powers that are spiritual. We're up against unseen powers that controls this dark world and spiritual agents from every headquarters of evil. Therefore, you must wear the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to resist evil in the day of power, and that even when you have fought to a standstill, you may still stand your ground. That section is so full of high voltage, I think my mind just blew a little bit. You know, let's break down that section of skosh. We have access to a boundless resource. There's absolutely no boundaries to the limitless resources available to you and me. We also have an evil resistor, the adversary, if you will, the devil. A lot of names, same thing, negativity man, the dark side. You know, you call it whatever you want. And his most effective weapon against all of humanity is to distract us from our prize. He's done that since Adam and Eve. They wanted something shiny. They wanted to be a little more like God. You know, they wanted more than even they thought God. They thought God couldn't supply their need. And God said he already supplied all their need. Heck, it was paradise. How do you live in a better spot than paradise? How do you want more than paradise? But they did. What they wanted was something that they couldn't have. You know? And but I mean, it's wild. His greatest weapon is to distract us from our prize, to distract us from answering our wilderness call, our still small voice. Do you think if you learn to listen to your inner voice a teeny weeny tiny little bit more, it might be able to help you tap just a little bit more into some superabundance? How would you like to have superabundance? How about a superabundant love life? How about a superabundant bank account? How about a superabundant health? How about superabundant friendships? A boundless, a limitless resource from the God who inhabits eternity. Man. You see, if you can learn to listen, then you can tap into that still small voice, which is talking to you, folks. Not every second of the day, but a lot more than we give ourselves credit. Trust me, or you would be dead. You see, we'll be able to tap into that, and we're going to be able to find the things that have been hidden for us. Sort of a treasure hunt of sorts. And they've been put here since the foundation, and we have to put enough energy in to find out where it is and what it is. And you're going to go through different phases of your life, different seasons, where you're going to want to do something one way one time, and in a few years you won't. That's okay. You're just growing into your prize. You're growing into yourself. You know, Buck would say, "Oh." At times, I seem to actually be able to decipher and differentiate my individual call from that swirling vortex of madness that we call life. It's not easy all the time. Life just spins. Next thing you know, it's the next day. And I still have that pile of papers. Actually, the hard part is not hearing the call. I think most people hear it. You see, everyone hears a call. It was training myself to learn to listen. Training myself to listen. Now, sometimes that call can be abrupt. Sometimes the call can be loud and swift. Sometimes it's just a whisper on a breeze. It's just a gleam of light filtering in through the window. Sometimes it's just a kind word from somebody. Sometimes it's a show you watch and you got your answer. Sometimes you're just looking at a tree. You're going for a run. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. God knows exactly how to communicate with every person on earth, not just you or we Christians. I remember being all the way under my wife's blue Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra that was balancing on 4 red Kmart quality jack stands fully extended, wheels off. And I was working on some typical weekend project, and I had what my dad used to call tinkeritis. I like to tinker around with mechanical things, whether they needed fixing or not. And work with my hands was cathartic. It was therapeutic to me. It's right up there with long distance trail running and teaching the Bible to me. And it was a beautifully, slightly cloudy Oregon day, and I was all alone in our driveway under this car. And while absorbed in my solitary thinking, I heard a loud voice, a man's voice, say, "Roll out now." I rolled sideways out from under the car and stood up. No sooner was I on my feet when I heard a moan of metal and a creak, and the cheap jack stands collapsed under the weight of the car, and it fell to the ground, brake drums touching pavement. Whoa, dude. Wild. That's the call of the wild, folks. It reached into something deep within me, and I heard it for once, and it saved my life. Now, don't think that I go around hearing voices. I'm not one of those guys. You know, call it what you will. I don't care. Coincidence, listening to God, intuition, you know, still small. I don't care what you call it. But listening to that inner voice saved my life. I have dozens of stories like this. You answering your inner call has saved your life more times than you care to admit, and more times than you even have noticed. The world is not simple, folks. Life moves fast. We're inundated with more information on a weekly basis than most people dealt with over an entire lifetime 200 years ago. Did you hear what I just said? You are exposed to more information on a daily basis than most people dealt with over their entire lifetime 200 years ago. The glut of media and information makes it harder than ever to hear our call back to the untamed us, the untamed you. Who is that? What is that? What are you really genetically engineered to be? What has God called you to be and to do? Life moves with mind-boggling speed. It's a breakneck pace, folks. I don't need to even tell you that. I don't even see how we keep up with with that gift, our true gift, our prominent purpose. Unless we learn to listen to that still small voice that wants to help and to direct us to our prize, like it said in 1 Kings 19:12. See, God knew things would get increasingly crazier, 2 Timothy 3:13. But he set us up for consistent success no matter the year, no matter the person, no matter the race, no matter the religion, no matter the season of life. You are totally and 100% set up for success if we just learn to listen to our call of the wild. In the book by Robert B. Cialdini, PhD, called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, he includes a statement that was made way back in 1972 when the earth was still cooling. It's from a visionary of a man named Norman McCrae regarding his view of the world that we would someday live in. Quote, "The prospect is, after all, we're going to enter an age when any duffer sitting at a computer terminal in his laboratory or office or public library or home can delve through unimaginable increased mountains of information in mass assembly data banks with mechanical powers of concentration and calculation that will be greater by a factor of tens of thousands than was ever available to the human brain of even an Einstein. End of quote. Greater by a factor of tens of thousands than was ever available to the human brain of even an Einstein. And we wonder why a man drinks? You wonder why people mindlessly go through religious rituals to keep their sanity? They keep themselves so busy they don't have time to think? Because they're so busy they don't have time to think. It's a hamster wheel, folks. And that still small voice, that call of your call of the wild, is the only thing that can snap us out of that insane reverie. Even Einstein didn't have to process the glut of information that you process on a daily basis. Heck, it's said that in his later years, to keep his life simple, Einstein typically wore the same gray suit every day. He didn't have to waste any brain power. We only have so much brain power. We only have so much time, folks. Today, information overload leads to decision fatigue. Many highly successful people have taken to limiting their simple choices so that they have the brain power to make larger decisions. Steve Jobs always wore his trademark black turtleneck and jeans. Always. Facebook mogul Mark Zuckerberg said, quote, "I really want to clear my life to make it so that I have to make as few decisions as possible about anything except what he really wanted to think about." And many actors, many producers, many musicians wear the same thing all the time. Now, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying that's what they have to do to simplify their life. It just has become too complex. They just got to narrow it down, slim it down. It might mean cleaning your desk. It might mean going for a run to clear your head. I don't care. Going to the gym. On the converse, if my wife had to wear the same clothes day in, day out, I would find her sitting on the floor in a dark corner rocking back and forth. She had to do it as a kid in parochial school. She said, "Never again, never again." She takes pride in her many shoes and matching blouses and lipstick, purses. See, like Buck heard the call of the wild and reverted back to his deepest genetic nature. We humans are each and all put here on earth to live out our calling. All we have to do is keep our life simple enough to hear, answer, and act upon our personal call of the wild. And remember this, God knows your number. God bless.